All right, joining me now, Matt Whitaker, former acting Attorney General of the United States. Matt, thanks for joining me. I want to have you listen to some audio we have of White House Press Secretary talking about the border crisis. Take a listen, and I want you to react.
The fact of the matter is the border is closed, which is in part why you see people trying to make this dangerous journey using smuggling networks. We are going to stay focused on the facts and making sure that we hold these smugglers accountable.
I mean, Matt, how do they get away with that? So here, Griff Jenkins, just right now, live footage, 300 to 400 people waiting to get into the country. He said 8,000 just came in. We had 5 Afghan nationals. Terrorists have entered the country. We have massive numbers of gotaways. But here, the press secretary can stand up in front of the media with virtually no pushback and say, the border's closed?
Yeah, Sean, it's outrageous what's going on, as you said, after Griff's report. But remember, this administration is lying to us. We see with our own eyes right now what is happening on the southern border, people walking across. The way the White House should be saying this is not only is the border closed, but if you come here, we will send you back to your home country. It is very simple. We had it under control, and people were not coming here because of various policies, including Remain in Mexico, that the Biden administration is completely undone. And this administration just lacks the political will to actually get control of the border.
To that point, Matt, take a look at Biden's statement saying, quote, and this was after the 53 individuals died in that tractor trailer, my administration will continue to do everything possible to stop human smugglers and traffickers from taking advantage of people who are seeking to enter the United States between ports of entry. But Matt, he'll do everything except build a wall. He'll do everything but continue to remain in Mexico. He'll do everything except actually secure the border.
You're right. And this administration just literally cannot seem to do anything that actually secures the border. I mean, I look at every single policy they put in place. These 53 immigrants that died in this tractor trailer, that's tragic, but it also should be added to the hundreds of thousands of people that have overdosed from illegal drugs that are pouring in through our southern border as well.
I was on with Dagan McDowell yesterday on Fox News, and she made the great point that if 53 people had died from gun violence, the media would lose their mind. But here you have 53 people of Hispanic descent, migrants coming into the country, and the media basically says nothing about it. Mainstream media.
Yeah, they don't cover it. They don't care. They don't want to point to this problem. I mean, we have all sorts of challenges, as you know, Sean, facing this country, including this inflation that's out of control. The Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department can't get it under control, and they do not want the American people to look at what's happening in our southern border. Millions of people are going to come here illegally in the Biden administration. It's fundamentally changing some of our cities, and it's really, the fix is very simple, but the Biden administration won't make the fixes.
I think the media likes to be duped by the White House, but I think most Americans understand that massive amounts of people are coming into the country. Americans understand that the border is open. But Matt, stay with me. Let's head over to Alexis McAdams on the fentanyl epidemic. Alexis went inside the Texas DPS crime lab that analyzes the majority of seized drugs. Alexis?
That's right. We went inside of that crime lab, and when I say there was lots of fentanyl, I mean pounds and pounds of fentanyl that DPS says they've confiscated off of highways and interstates all across Texas. It's flowing in, law enforcement says, Sean, from the border, which we just talked about extensively there. They're having a lot of issues there. But as the drugs continue to come in, they're ending up in the hands of Americans in big cities and in small cities and killing people in the United States at an alarming rate.
Every day, scientists at this Texas Department of Public Safety crime lab have their hands on one of the deadliest drugs in America.
This is actually a kilo of fentanyl.
DPS forensic scientist Jennifer Hatch tells me nearly every street drug she analyzes is laced with the synthetic opioid.
We're more surprised when they do come back legitimate than when they don't.
Last year, fentanyl was the #1 cause of death among Americans 18 to 45 years old, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
How lethal is this?
If you consider a lethal dose to be 2 milligrams, it could potentially produce up to 500,000 lethal doses.
And that could kill hundreds of thousands of people.
But before the drug ends up at the lab, law enforcement has to find it.
Hold on real quick, Mike. Open it up for you. There you you. Keep an eye on the bundles. Okay.
Police say the cartels hide it in everything, from tires to water pumps.
Every state is a border state.
DPS Lieutenant Chris Olivares is focused on stopping the pounds of what he calls poison being shipped into the United States from China and Mexico.
Drug trafficking organizations are using the chemicals to manufacture and mass produce fake pills.
These are real oxycodone pills, and these are fake. But even for scientists, they can't tell by just looking. That's why they have to use high-tech instruments like this here in Houston to find out.
These are all illegitimate Xanax tablets, and they look excellent.
Investigators say the cartel makes big money off the synthetic opioid, but Americans pay the ultimate price.
It's so bad right now. Do you think it's going to continue to get worse?
It's not slowing down.
Not slowing down and on record pace, Sean, to kill even more Americans this year than they did last year. DPS right now is calling on the federal government to do more to stop those exporters shipping in those supplies into the United States from China, and also to go after the Mexican cartels. Sean?
Alexis McAdams from Houston, thank you for the report. All right, now back with former Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker. So, Matt, I mean, again, we have the leading cause of death between Americans 18 to 45 years old is fentanyl. Enough fentanyl came into the country, seized last year, to kill every single American. But here Joe Biden and Democrats say we're going to keep the border open, and the consequence of that is dead Americans.
You're right. And what's happening is with these illegal individuals that are coming here, they're obviously bringing in lots of illegal drugs. My concern is on all these opioids, and fentanyl is an opioid, a synthetic one at that, is that the individuals' tolerance that use those drugs and seek that out builds up over time, and so they can take more and more. But now that it's being mixed in with all sorts of other illicit and illegal drugs, you're seeing a lot of overdose deaths among teenagers that are ordering this off of the internet and don't even know what they're getting. And so I just, it's so concerning that in addition to the crisis we talked about earlier with all the illegal immigrants coming across the border, really with no consequence, in addition, all of that is bringing in all these illegal drugs that are killing our fellow citizens.
You know, Matt, it's coming in from Mexico, no doubt, but it's being manufactured in China. China's a communist country. The Chinese individuals who manufacture this drug could never do it unless they had the permission of the Communist Party. And so here you have China sending drugs to Mexico to kill Americans, and our president doesn't do anything about it. This is an attack on our country from China.
Yeah, so when I was at the Department of Justice, I went to China and tried to work with the Chinese in 2018 to get them to quit manufacturing both fentanyl and its precursors. President Trump had a deal shortly thereafter with President Xi to reduce fentanyl. To your point, the Chinese could shut it down if they wanted. We've seen a migration now to the manufacturing actually happening both in China and in Mexico, and all the precursors are coming from China. And so without Chinese help and participation, we're not going to be able to reduce this unless we close our southern border, as we were speaking. But, my concern is that ultimately the Chinese are trying to purposely poison and kill American citizens. There should be more outrage around this.
There should be. Joe Biden could close the border, but he chooses not to, Matt. Listen, Matt Whitaker, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. All right. Recession.